In the life sciences, it often feels like there's this constant tug of war, right? You've got rapid innovation on one side and super strict regulation on the other. But what if I told you that's a false choice? Today, we're diving into something called GAMP5. It's a framework that shows you how to not just manage that battle, but how to win it. And here's the kicker. It's not about adding more rules. It's about being smarter with compliance. Okay, let's get into it.
So right off the bat, let's just tackle this head on. This idea that you have to pick one. Either you push forward with new, exciting tech, or you get bogged down in a sea of regulations. Well, the whole point of what we're talking about today is that there's a third way, a way to be both incredibly innovative and perfectly compliant.
And let's be clear, the stakes in this world are unbelievably high. The IT systems that run everything, from clinical trials all the way to manufacturing, they are under a massive regulatory microscope. And honestly, for good reason. I mean, a single system failure could directly impact patient safety, product quality, everything. So you can see how that creates a huge challenge for companies just trying to keep up and innovate.
And here is the absolute core of the problem. When you take a rigid compliance by the pound approach, where you think success is measured by the sheer weight of your paperwork, it can be so counterproductive. It just grinds innovation to a halt. And the real irony? It often doesn't even manage the risks that truly matter. All you're doing is creating bureaucracy, not safety.
Okay, so to really get the solution, we first have to understand the rules of the game. You're going to hear the term GxP a lot. Just think of it as the big umbrella term for all the good practice regulations that govern the industry. That X is just a placeholder. It could stand for manufacturing, clinical, laboratory, you name it. These are the foundational rules, the law.
And this slide gives you a perfect snapshot of what that looks like. You've got GMP for manufacturing, GCP for those critical clinical trials, GLP for labs, and the list goes on. Each one is a specific set of mandatory requirements, and they all have one goal: to make sure products are safe and effective. These are the absolute non-negotiables.
So if GxP regulations are the law, then where in the world does GAMP5 fit in? Well, this is where we make the turn. We're moving from the problem to the solution, because GAMP isn't just another set of rules you have to follow, it's a totally different way of thinking about how you meet those rules.
So, the ultimate goal of GAMP5, it's exactly the same as GxP. It's all about protecting patients, making sure the product quality is top-notch, and keeping data integrity rock solid. It's not here to replace the regulations. It's a framework that's been designed to help companies meet them in a much more intelligent, risk-based, and frankly effective way.
Now this slide, this is where it gets really interesting. This distinction is absolutely crucial. Think of it this way. GMP is the law. It tells you what you have to do. GAMP5, on the other hand, is the strategy. It's the guide for how you do it efficiently and intelligently. It's about moving from a rigid, just follow the rules mindset to a pragmatic, thoughtful, risk-based approach.
Okay, so how does it actually do that? How does GAMP5 turn compliance from what feels like a burden into a real strategic advantage? Well, the entire methodology, the whole thing, is built on a core philosophy that really just boils down to 5 powerful, interconnected concepts. That's it, just 5. The entire philosophy, this huge shift from focusing on paperwork to focusing on performance, is all built on just 5 core concepts. And it's that elegant focus that makes GAMP5 so powerful. When you put these 5 ideas together, they create this incredible foundation for a modern, risk-based way of thinking about compliance.
And here they are. We're going to walk through each one, but you can probably already see the logic here, right? Understand what you're doing, manage it from beginning to end, scale your effort based on the actual risk, and work smart with your partners. It just makes sense. All right, let's break them down.
Everything, and I mean everything, starts right here. You simply cannot validate a system effectively if you don't have a deep, fundamental understanding of the product it helps create and the process it supports. This is the bedrock for every single decision you're going to make. It's how you figure out what the system actually needs to do to get the job done right and keep everyone safe. It's what the industry calls being fit for intended use.
Next up, GAMP5 knows that a system isn't just a one-time thing. It has a whole life. This is broken down into 4 main phases that you see here. It starts with the initial concept, moves through the project build, then into its long-term operation, which is usually the longest phase, and all the way to its eventual retirement. This thinking ensures you have control and consistency from cradle to grave. Now this concept is where the efficiency really starts to kick in. GAMP5 says, hey, you shouldn't treat a simple, off-the-shelf lab instrument with the same level of intense validation as a massive, complex, custom-built manufacturing system.
It just doesn't make sense. You scale your activities based on the actual risk, the complexity, and how new the technology is. One size does not fit all.
So you might be asking, okay, how do I decide how to scale that effort? Great question. The answer is through quality risk management, or QRM. And this isn't just guesswork or gut feeling, it's a formal, systematic process. You can think of QRM as the engine that helps you focus your time, your money, and your team's energy on the parts of a system that could actually impact patient safety and product quality. And finally, the fifth concept is just plain smart. Don't reinvent the wheel. The companies that supply your systems have incredible, deep knowledge of their own products. GAMP5 encourages you to lean on that. Leverage their expertise, their experience, their documentation. As long as you've done a proper assessment, you can build on their work instead of wastefully duplicating it, and that saves an enormous amount of time and effort.
Okay, so that's the philosophy. Those are the 5 core concepts. And it's a great philosophy, but GAMP5 is all about being pragmatic, about the real world. So how does this way of thinking actually translate into what people do day to day? Let's take a look at how you put these principles into practice.
I love this quote, and it comes directly from the GAMP5 guide itself. It basically says it all. The goal is not to see who can produce the most paper. The goal is to apply critical thinking to prove you have control and to ensure the system works exactly like it's supposed to. Regulators want to see smart, targeted actions backed up by a clear rationale, not a mountain of binders.
To make this work, you need a solid team with clear roles. First, you have the process owner. This person is from the business side. They own the process and are ultimately the one on the hook for compliance. Then you have the system owner, who often comes from IT, and they manage the technology itself. And of course, you have your subject matter experts, your SMEs, who bring that deep, specific knowledge needed to actually verify everything works.
And holding all of this together is good data governance. Remember those 3 core goals from the beginning? Patient safety, product quality, and data integrity? Well, this framework, this combination of people, processes, and technology is what delivers on that third promise. It's how you make sure your data is trustworthy from the second it's created to the day it's archived. It is absolutely essential.
So, you've done all this work. You're applying critical thinking, you're managing risk, you've got your roles defined, you're governing your data. What's the real payoff? Why should a company go through the effort of embracing the GAMP5 framework?
Well, the benefits are very real and they're huge. You end up reducing the cost and time you spend on compliance because you're focusing your effort only where it's needed. You find and fix problems way earlier in the process, which is always cheaper. That leads to more cost-effective operations over the long haul. And maybe most importantly, all of that efficiency frees up your best people and your resources for the real goal: innovation that helps people. It turns out good compliance is just plain good business.
So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this. GAMP5 is not about adding more red tape. It's a practical, pragmatic framework that empowers your teams to use critical thinking and to focus their energy where it truly matters most, on protecting patients, guaranteeing products quality, and maintaining the integrity of their data.
And that really leaves us with one final, and I think pretty powerful question to think about. I want you to take an honest look at your own organization's approach to this stuff. Is your compliance culture really focused on managing risk to protect patients? Or has it maybe become more about just generating paperwork to get through an audit? GAMP5 gives you a clear path to make sure it's always the former.